Here we are at the Public Market Advisory Commission meeting. It is November 16th and it is 5:32, so we will call the meeting to order. Stephanie, could you do the roll call?
Yes. Commissioner, excuse me, Nemeth.
Here.
Commissioner Wolf.
Here.
Commissioner Young.
Here.
Commissioner Bogue.
Is not going to be
Not
here.
here.
Not here.
All right. That's where we're at.
And then the next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. So are there any changes, additions, anything else that anybody wants to put on the agenda?
It's good to me.
Okay.
I move to approve.
All right.
Second.
All right. So everybody who approves the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
All right.
And then we're on to item D, which is our next, is a first public comment. These are agenda items only.
Did you guys want to participate in public comment?
Hi. Thanks for coming.
They made it, yeah. I have a couple things to say, so.
Actually, I think the mic is on. I'm not, but
Okay.
yes.
And I'm gonna sit because
Yeah, please.
I got a bum foot.
Please.
My name is Debbie Marks. And you're supposed to state your address. I don't know why exactly, but I live at 1131 North Maple Road in Ann Arbor. Thank you for the in-person meeting. It's gonna take a while to get back into this, and this is such a busy time for many of us vendors, so I'm hoping we'll have another meeting in February or March in person that we'll have more time and we'll have a better attendance, hopefully. So much more is accomplished when we all get together in the same room. So I'm loving that. Thank you for the survey. It's great to have that connection with the vendors to get their input. It's everything. We always put our customers first. It's really not about us. It's what's good for business, what's good for the customers. That's the reason why we're there. The survey should continue and align for what we have going on at the time. I think that's really important, the way that it was written up. I believe Hannah did that. That was beautiful. She even ran mine out to me because I was an airhead and forgot that was the last day. It was wonderful. It was very nice, and I appreciate that. Thank you very, very much. That was great, Hannah. I'm going to bring this up now because I always bring it up at the end of the meeting and then it never gets addressed, and that is the market is very dingy and very dirty. And the dilapidated bird nests are hanging from the rafters and stains are everywhere. The farmer's market should not have to jump through hoops and beg permission for special work orders to maintain a clean and healthy environment at the market. Food is sold and consumed there. The bird nests can be safely removed now, and the market can be power washed. This has not been done in over a year. It needs to be done a few times a year. Also, for as long as I can remember, 3 decades anyway, we always had large wreaths on the entrances. There's 3 or 4 main entrances to the market. And they were just so beautiful. During the day you can't see the lights, but the wreaths are always there. I don't know if Parks and Rec had to buy them. I'm sure it wouldn't kill them if they did. Or if they were donated or that was worked out with vendors, I don't know. But that was a beautiful addition. It just gives everything a festive mood. This historical destination spot in our city deserves more respect and care for by Parks. Thank you. See you at the market.
Thank you.
Thanks, Debbie.
Thank you. Any other comments? You will have another opportunity at the end as well, if you're not ready yet.
See you at the end.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, so we have approval of minutes from previous meetings, and we have both a September, because we didn't have quorum, and then
Yep.
the October meetings. Are there any additions, changes? I didn't print mine out, so. Did you get a chance to look at them, Jess?
The
Yeah.
one downside is I don't have my capacity to pull it up like I do on Zoom.
Yeah. So any additions or changes or anything like that?
Seemed good.
Okay, so this will be a motion to approve both the September and the October minutes.
I move to approve.
Second.
All right, and everybody who approves, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
Alright, and that was for September, or that was for both?
that was for both.
Okay.
All right, and then we are on to item G, regular business agenda items.
You need to sit back over there.
Hi there.
Yeah,
Sit there.
sorry. That's what I was
Just got
instructed.
defensive detention or
That's what I was
something.
instructed at least.
Just join in the crowd. Thanks for coming. All right, so general updates, and this is on the new vendors.
Alright. Sorry for the multitasking of minute taking
It's okay.
and facilitation. Okay.
I can wait till you stop typing too, if you
So-
can actually hear
I'm
it now.
good. Luckily, I'm fast. So, here we are, new vendors. So I had a new orientation with a vendor that we've been working with, getting their application processed since the summer. We were waiting for their food establishment license to go through. They are a baked goods vendor. It is a husband and wife team, and they are students that are from China. So we're really excited to have another very culturally appropriate, unique item to be joining us, and they will be joining this Saturday. So you will have a chance to meet them. It's called Moli Roli, and they will be working out of the Washtenaw Food Hub eventually.
What kind of baked good is it?
It's a very unique items. They brought some cakes for us to try before, but it's not like any other baked goods that we have
Oh, cool.
at the market. Plus, we thought it would be something really unique to capture a really large Chinese population of customers.
That's awesome.
So we're very excited. And I just had their orientation yesterday, so they're raring to go. And then we have a couple other applicants that are still being assessed. We have somebody who wants to do dog treats as well as freeze-dried candy. That's a popular one that keeps coming across our radar. We haven't decided yet for the other people. But as of right now, that's where we are.
It's under your.
It's under your technological
It's
difficulties.
wrapped around your ankle.
Yes.
There you go.
Yes. But anyway, we're still looking for good additions. We're trying to make sure that everything is either something that we don't have, or something that fills a niche, or something that's a demand that we know that customers have. Obviously our priority is farms, but they're not always applying, so we just have to take it as it comes. In the last couple days, I've gotten a lot of inquiries about 2024, people wanting to know when the new application will be done, and we're sort of in a unique boat because we are year-round, so that application doesn't really come out until at least December, but we've already been getting inquiries. We have a new pizza vendor that has inquired about joining in 2024. It's been a few years since we've had a pizza truck, both during Market Day and for the food truck rally, so we're looking forward to their application being received.
So that vendor will be a truck vendor then?
Right, it's a food
vendor.
truck specifically, so a
Great.
mobile food vendor.
Great. All right, staffing updates.
All right, so it's still just us, Hannah and I. And part of the reason for that is if we were to hire another person right now, that would leave us short-staffed again for this time next year.
Yeah.
So in all likelihood, we're gonna wait until probably March to hire our third assistant so that, we won't have a gap again when market's still very busy. For example, we had 65 vendors last Saturday. This is still a very busy time, not the time that we really can have not enough staffing, and it continues to be an issue, but luckily we've been having a lot of really great support from the Ann Arbor Senior Center staff. One of their staff, Kim Lon, has been a really, really great addition. Been the fastest token counter that we've ever met. So, and she will be assisting actually next Saturday when I'm out of town for Thanksgiving. So if you see her, say thank you. We're very appreciative of her efforts, as well as other senior center people.
Stephanie,
Yes.
when will you be posting, if you want to hire in March, when will you be posting the position? Approximately.
Most likely, next year sometime. It really all depends on timing,
So, but I'm assuming January, February is when you'll post.
potentially. Yes.
All right, events.
All right, well, October was the end of our outside of market special events. It was our last food truck rally. It was pretty successful. We had 14 food trucks and carts. So it was our smallest of the 2018 rallies, but that's because some of those rallies were the biggest we've ever had. I think the highest we had was 23 or 24 trucks and carts, plus live music. So we pretty much filled the entire market. So I think we figured out that, sometimes less is more, and perhaps that's a little bit too many choices for people. So I think, we've figured out that around that, 18 and less mark is sort of the good number. In terms of other events, although we don't have anything scheduled ourselves, aside from, the Wednesday market next week being a good one for people getting their last ingredients, as well as pushes up to the holiday. But of course, Kindle Fest is back. It is not our event, but it is an event that will be happening at Market on December 1st. And that's after a multi-year hiatus. So we'll see. And then those in the room probably already know about this, but instead of it being Liberty Plaza Market happening separately and Kindle Fest, two different things, they've collaborated. So now there will actually be two different locations of artisans, both in Liberty Plaza and at the market on December 1st in the evening. So it should be a really great time, and I know some of our artisans will be participating. And then for next year, we're looking forward again to having a full calendar of events. I think we pretty much pulled that off this year, but there might be some other things that we can add. But we'll start brainstorming for that in the spring.
Great. Next thing is the facilities and repairs.
Yes. So we've still been in conversation with the city about the larger repairs, specifically when it comes to the market office building. We will revisit that a little bit later, so we will return to that in this meeting. But I just did want to say that is still ongoing. And this week on Tuesday, we had one of the outstanding gutter repairs occur in around stall 92. We had been having an issue with that being very problematic. When it rained, it would just spray all over someone's stall. So we're very happy that they finally came and were able to fix that. There's still other areas that I'm not sure were fully addressed yet, but I have reached back out to them to see if that is still, hopefully that will still be coming, and that's in the area 1011, that whole side on the Carytown aisle. I worry that there was actually a confusion between 10 and 11 as marked on the parking signs and 10 and 11 as marked on the stalls. I worry that the repair people went to the wrong area of the market, because the other side was very well taken care of. The other one was still in its prior state. So we shall see about how that is going. Other ongoing repairs, we've been having an issue with the urinal in the men's bathroom. It keeps getting very close to overflowing, if not overflowing, multiple times. And we've had the plumber out to look at it three times so far, and it's still not really getting any better. They just said, oh, turn the screw clockwise, that should fix it. That has not fixed it. So they have referred it to a third party, and so hopefully that will be something that gets addressed sometime soon, because we have had to continually just keep closing it, and mopping the floor during the market. Market is never fun, so that's a little bit of the behind the scenes that many folks don't get to see. And then for other facility repairs, there is a much longer term conversation happening about ADA compliance and the fact that the market with its multi-levels is not exactly a model of ADA compliance, simply because of being on a slant, trying to make things flat for everyone in terms of stalls is a challenge. So that's something that we're still looking for, more long-term solutions. And again, long-term meaning like 10 to 20 years, not 2 years. So just so folks are aware of that. And I think that's all that I have on that for now.
So what compliant is it?
So when you have, the American Disability Act,
Okay.
so because it's, people
Yeah,
have to step, it's not necessarily wheelchair accessible in all parts.
Which I find real interesting that
Right.
right behind us, there used to be
Right.
a ramp coming in off Detroit Street and they
Right.
got rid of that.
Right.
So,
And then there's parts of the market which may be flat, but the slope is too steep, so that's not in compliance either. So there's a lot of issues, or also, the parts where the sidewalk, or not even sidewalk, but the walkway is uneven,
Yep.
because it might be sinking. So there's a lot of different issues, or even just the fact that we have so many gaps or breaks between each piece of concrete. Each time there's a gap, that's a potential issue for someone
Gotcha.
with mobility. So there's a lot of different things. Also the men's bathroom, again, the slope is, and the curb, it's not really accessible. The handrails are in the wrong place in the accessible stalls in both the men's and the women's bathroom. So there's a lot of things that, need to be fixed. And I think part of that was we were working with a consultant that did have this expertise. That is the one that pointed out all these things, because we went through a big ADA audit last year, as did all parks facilities. So, they're really just trying to be very proactive and get ahead of it. But these are some things that they pointed out and are an ongoing issue. So,
Do you know where the financing comes from for the gutter repairs and the bathrooms and stuff like that? Does that come
that comes out of our budget.
out of the farmer's market budget?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. So I don't know if there's any other questions.
I guess coming back to
Okay.
Debbie's question, is
Sure.
there a plan for power washing?
They usually like to do it, from what I've been told, in the spring, because of the coldness and because the water's already been turned off for the year is part of it, although it's been so warm recently. But that's what I was told the last time I inquired, that they really like to do it like first thing in the spring. But spring could also mean like March, late winter. But nothing beyond that as of I know. And then also the issue partly with the birds is there is a protected species and an invasive species, so they can't
While
just
they're not nesting
move
though,
them.
that's when you go in and remove it. And
right,
they're not nesting. This is the time.
right,
Yeah, and it hasn't been power washed
Right.
this spring.
right. Well, that's just what they told me last time, and I think it was something that got pushed back, and it ended up happening in the fall because they ran out of time.
It hasn't been done in over
Right.
a year, so.
Well,
So-
last year I was saying.
so Saturday alone, and I know it's already been covered, but I promised these people that I would mention it at the
Sure.
meeting.
Please.
Complaints about the birds.
Yep.
One of the people
Right.
set up next to us noticed there's a customer that got pooped on. And my fear is just that it's gonna be, somebody's gonna issue a complaint with the health department.
Right.
Is really my concern.
Sure. No, it's a big issue, and it's just something unfortunately that happens every single year.
It's life, I mean, but I think if it needs to be done at the proper time, then that's fine, but I think they need to put some kind of screen or something up to keep the birds from
Yeah.
getting up there.
Yeah, and I was at a stall
got-
where parts
yeah.
of nest were falling
Yeah.
on the food too.
Right.
One of the people that complained about it, though, I noticed when she left, there's a little pile of breadcrumbs there she left for the So she's not completely heartless.
A little
I
bit of
mean,
both sides,
Right.
right, exactly.
Right.
One of the vendors told me she may have gotten fleas from the birds too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Lisa, I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
I said, one of the vendors told me she got flea bites right after she was at the market, and she,
Yes.
We saw them on the car. I looked it up
Yes.
online. They don't fly, they
In
jump.
the fall, it was
And they
bad.
stay hibernated in the nest.
Mhm.
all
And all that,
winter.
yep, staying up there, yep.
So Stephanie, I know power washing is the easiest, but if the water's turned off, is there something the city can do, just like with sticks and brooms and, you know, that's not pleasant, but the gusts of wind are gonna do a bunch of it, but we don't want that to happen either, so.
Right, I was just simply saying that there's one species that's protected, so they have to be really careful about the removal, because they're not supposed to.
Only when they're nesting.
Right, but I've seen this bird very recently at the market.
They can be there, but as long as
So.
they're not nesting,
Right.
you can remove nests.
Right, but I'm simply just saying that there's two different, right, and the bird that is protected is actually the non-nuisance bird. They're not the one with the nest that's
Exactly,
falling
exactly.
everywhere. I just worry that the last time they removed it, they also like didn't discern which was which. So we also just have to be aware that that's a potential violation of protected
If they're not
species.
nesting, they can remove all the nests.
Right.
Legally, that's when
Right.
they do it.
I'm just going based on what the
And
ornithologist
the
told
netting
me.
is what we heard from Jeb, is beautiful, they have it in
Right.
other markets.
Right.
What are the species?
There is just a regular house sparrow, which is the invasive, and then there's a house finch, which is the protected native one. You might have seen them. They've got the red throat.
The purple one? Purple thing?
It's actually it's not. It's related species, but it's a different species. It's a house finch. That's what the ornithologist told me. In fact, she actually came and did a walkthrough a few years ago
That's cool.
and showed me how to identify which nest. But yes, I'm not disagreeing with anyone. I am totally just writing these comments down.
You're also the voice with the city though, so.
Well, I'm just giving explanation as to why, from what I know.
But it would be nice to actually make a request. I think
Right.
that would be a good, if that would,
Right.
that would be helpful to see if we push them on a little faster. That'd
Sure.
be-
Any other questions or comments on that item?
I have one minor comment on the
Okay.
urinals that I've dealt with other folks with in commercial spaces like this too, and it's a very common problem. There's actually a very easy solution that it ends up there are uric acid crystals that form in urinals, and it's a known problem. And there is like the solution, which is like an acid solution that you put in, but it's specifically for this. You leave it in overnight, and it essentially erodes away the mineral buildup, and otherwise just like clogged arteries.
Mm-hmm.
So those are it's a known thing, and you can
Sure.
buy it on Amazon for $10. You know,
Right.
and it works.
I'm just not sure if like that's what's happening exactly because it's like extra water flow. It's
Mhm.
not just a
It may be.
drainage
It may
issue.
not be, but that's something that if it is
Right.
the drain is draining too slow, it should drain fast enough all the time for a full flush. Then it should, but so that's something to put
Yeah.
on that radar. That
Well, we've also had like specifically power routers come out 3 times
Yeah.
and weren't able to find an issue exactly.
in the drain, because it's the
No.
thing, because it's usually just narrow.
Right.
I know I had another person I
Right,
worked
I mean,
with
we've
was
got such hard water here. I mean, it
Yeah.
makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's someone who was at Washtenaw Community College, and he was the head of their facilities maintenance for their things, and he was always complaining about the urinals and this happening, and this was his solution that seemed to work
Alright.
really well. So he was very happy to share that with me, so I'll pass that little tidbit along.
Okay, appreciate that. Okay.
Next thing on the list is the Carytown representative.
All right. So the good news is we do have a Carytown representative. So this has been a vacant spot for a very long time. So what this means for people that are playing along at home, the Carytown, we need to have a person on this body that is some sort of representative of the Carytown neighborhood, whether that's a business, whether that's a resident. It's very broadly defined in our bylaws. So you may know Emma Hardy. She's been working for 2 Tracks. She has also worked for Green Things. She's a fixture at the market, so we're very excited to have her join. She has gone through her first round of approval by City Council as of November 6th meeting, I believe. So that would mean that December she should be fully confirmed and able to join us.
Great. Good.
She's also a grad student in philosophy with a focus on philosophy of food
Oh, cool.
and related issues.
Perfect.
Yeah. I'm excited.
And we're excited too because she knows the market more than just a regular
Yep.
resident or a neighbor or other business owner would know.
Definitely.
Great. Good. Glad to hear that's moving along.
Yep.
The next and last thing on the general updates list is the vendor survey.
Yes. So the vendor survey is out. It has been filled out by at least 20 people online, and
Yes. And about 10 in paper that I just entered from Wednesday. And I'll be passing out more paper. Wednesday was the first day I did paper ones, and that was successful. So I'm going to do more paper on Saturday, so we should have a higher response rate.
and I will also be sending another separate email to remind folks to take it that may not have seen it embedded in the other emails that I send.
Yeah, I had more people this last weekend saying that they'd filled it out,
Mhm.
but
Yep.
the weekend
Yes.
before, people were like, what,
Yep.
there was a survey?
I mean, that's why I put it in every email I send. So that
I
it
think
gets
we
the
need
broadest
color coding.
reach. But it's also, you know, busy time for people. People are putting farms to bed. People are making artisan goods. It's holiday time. Wreath making is happening. So, you know, we're going to leave it open for as long as needed to get as many people to take it as we can.
And it's still about 110 vendors?
There's 125 vendors.
Okay.
So when it was
After-
20, it was 16%.
After this next round of paper, I'll be doing targeted emails to people that might be done for the season,
Great.
not there.
Missed it.
Great, thank you.
Can you tell
Yes.
me how many artisan vendors there are and how many spaces are allotted for them?
Well, it's 18 total spots.
Okay.
Because that was what
For
we
annual
updated
vendors.
this last year.
Okay.
So
And
I,
we're at capacity, is that correct?
for annual status artisans. Yeah, so like for permanent stalls, yes.
And how many, that entails how many artisans are allowed on the market total?
We don't have a cap, an overall cap.
And are artisans, I mean, people are like, oh, you're at the farmer's market, you're an artisan? Like, I wanna be on that, so how
Mhm.
many, there's no cap, they can apply, and if it's,
Right. It
Daily
depends on
sell.
what type of product that they have.
oh.
The problem is we always get people that we already have people producing
Right.
those items. So
Right.
we don't really, because that's the other thing, we don't want to flood the market with stuff that we already have,
So
because then no
somebody
one wins.
Felted hats,
Right,
or, I don't know, coats.
right. I
They
mean,
could
we,
apply, and we don't have somebody that does that.
right, but we only can go based on, you know, need and desire as well. It's just the same thing we do with other vendors.
Just like with food, yeah.
Right. If
Yeah.
it's something that's like super, super niche that might not make much sense, I mean, I'm not gonna approve that. So they can apply. I just don't know if if they would get in.
We were at total capacity for artists for the 12%, and that there was a moratorium on it.
Right.
Okay.
Well, it wasn't a moratorium per se. It was just that we weren't really getting people. But since I've been here, I've let on 2 artisans. One is Zilch Apothecary. The other is Blue Lilac. They're both skincare
Right.
ones. But since then, yeah, everything we've gotten is stuff that is either
Okay.
in the market, it's products that don't really make sense for us.
And
Yeah.
of the skincare things, are those like soap makers, or?
One's a soap maker, one's like a lotion and face serum, and it's much more like skincare than it is like cleansing products.
And as I remember, those vendors often have a relationship with the local food system in some way.
Right. So to give an example of Zilch, I mean, everything she produces is zero waste, completely biodegradable, all natural ingredients, totally organic. So very, very much in line with what everybody wants. And the other vendor is similar. They are both immigrant women-owned businesses, so that's also something that I take into consideration and give weight above others too, because I think that's something that's really important for us, to have a diversity of not just products, but who owns our businesses as well. So, if that gives more, I don't know if that answered your question or not.
All right, so on to continuing conversations. The first one is the changes for the PMAC bylaws.
All right, so I did hear back from the city legal team, I believe yesterday, about they need to sit down and look at this and get it rolling.
Oh, good.
That's the first step.
So, the good news, and they were actually asking for editing access, which perhaps you can give them, and I will just give your email to them.
Okay, that seems fine, yeah.
As the owner of the page, I'm not sure, as you're the owner, I'm not sure if I can do it,
Okay,
but,
yeah. If
I will
not,
forward
let me
this
know.
to you.
That sounds good.
I'll do it right now. But the good news is that it's on their radar, and they will be helping us with that. They also did want to just see the conversation and like the different comments that have been made over time. So, but that was all that I had. Just that quick update that it's still happening.
It's in work.
We're
Great.
still doing it. It's still in process.
I can't remember if that document has our notes in it or not. It may, if they need more detailed notes, Stephanie, just let us know.
Yeah,
'cause
and I have the historical kind of
Yep.
thing, so I can send them kind of the documentation of the versions and iterations and kind of discussion comments we had, so
Yep.
I tried to keep that all organized, so. And written.
So hopefully, their process can be slow. It really just depends on their edits. If they have a lot of edits, this may take a while. And then for those not aware, so we've been reviewing the bylaws for this body specifically over the last few years. So this is not vendor rule changes at all. This is specifically PMAC changes. And it's just to update it because it has not been updated since at least 2013. So it includes a lot of different things. I don't know, maybe give a quick summary
Sure.
while we're here.
Yeah, so that it's not been updated for about 10 years, so we just to retouch it, to update some basic naming things, that's part of it. Part of it, some of the bigger changes are to expand this body. So right now we have 5 people on this body, and so adding 2 more people onto it, which would include one more person from the market, which can be anyone, and which could include a daily or a annual. And then the other one is, I think, just was a member at large, which could include.
Yep.
So it does allow maybe some rebalancing of sometimes there may be more people from the market, more vendors actually than non-vendors at the market. Sometimes right now it's structured such that there are more non-vendors than vendors. And so this would allow that to vary around and give people more voice. The other thing too is it would help to make sure that we actually have quorum more frequently and a greater brain trust, that there's just a lot more and more continuity. So trying to roll that in, so that's part of it. Another thing we changed too was imposing term limits. So that we don't actually have term limits in this body right now. Hasn't been an issue, but it seems like just kind of house cleaning, organizational, seems like that's kind of a fairness issue, and that seems to work out. There's cases to evolve. The other thing that we changed was one step that we modified, which was there's a conflict of interest clause in this, which is makes sense in a lot of cases, but in this body is a little bit different in terms of we have vendors on this thing, and if someone is a vendor who chooses to be on this board, can they not have any problems? If you have a disagreement with something at the market, can you not bring it up because you're also a person on this board? And so how to make sure that there are already mechanisms for recusal and mechanisms for that, but not to it was in conflict, at least from what we discussed, to kind of, it seemed like it was unnecessary given the other protections that are in there, and also kind of intrinsically there are intrinsic kind of conflicts of interest in terms of some people, the vendors in particular, being on this board. We want them, we need them, and so making sure that they are allowed and also able to speak their mind and speak their piece if they actually do have an issue too. So trying to incorporate that, but not have it be like that they can railroad it. So the structure I think we wrote will accommodate all that to make it clear for that. So I think those were the.
Yep.
Did I miss any?
Yep. Nope.
Okay.
Nope.
Yes. That was helpful.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. Then the big thing on the agenda is the market office building repairs.
Yes.
Da, da, da.
And I just wanted to do a sidebar that we tabled the producer-only subcommittee conversation until the winter when there is more time. We have not forgotten about it. We just want to push it until when folks can actually give more time to that.
So that'll probably be January, February.
Potentially.
And is there anyone leading that, or is it just
Jeb
you?
is taking the lead
Okay.
on that.
Got it.
Yes. So the last time, in terms of the market office repairs, we were doing some visioning. Unfortunately, you were not here,
No.
so this is an opportunity for other commission members to chime in about our visioning process, and to put it into a broader conversation about, you know, repairs at the market, office building, specifically emergency repairs, and how that fits in to our timeline for the next less than year that we have to fix the problem. Right. So I don't know if you had any thoughts or if you need me to recap what we had talked about last time.
Oh, I remember the time before, so if could you do a little recap from?
Right. The budget, or excuse me, not the budget, incorrect word. So the assessment of the foundation. So for those not aware, the foundation of the Market office building is crumbling. We noticed it last spring when the snow pile melted and there was a big gap like this between the sidewalk and the Market office building. They did some exploration in that area to try and find out what was causing it. It was somewhat inconclusive, but they did find out that whatever was causing it, the end result was that it was crumbling. The cinder blocks that part of the office sat on did not have their the concrete infill that they would have needed to be the most stable. And there was other related issues with just the quality of the construction materials that had been used in the early 80s were starting to decay. So in essence, this assessment said that we had about a year to fix the problem. So this is complicated somewhat in that when they finished the assessment, they just infilled the gap with gravel. If you may have noticed, if you are parked in that area or walk in that area, and the real issue becomes this winter, one of our key pieces that we're going to have to do is somehow make it so that road salt does not get into that space, which would then make the problem even worse.
Mm-hmm.
So I've had a few conversations at this point with park operations about how we would sort of cover that area so that the salt would not get in this winter, making the problem worse. And as it was left to me, we're still figuring out if it's going to be just a fix of the foundation, which would cost minimum of $150,000, or if it would be upgrading the building just enough to repair it, which would be an additional $150,000, or if we would just start over with a new building in the same footprint, but perhaps build up instead of out, because we're not looking at building out, we're not looking at taking any parking spots away. Like, that's the last thing that we want to do. But also the idea being is that we have to reconstruct it at some level anyway. Why not get creative? Why not address some of the issues or the needs that the market has that are currently not being addressed? Like, for example, storage. I know that's not the most glamorous of reasons, but the market has nowhere near enough storage to the point where, you know, we can't safely open the doors without causing a tripping hazard with all of our stored items in there. A lot of the market stuff is stored off-site. Mm-hmm. And I'm not even talking in the shed, I'm talking about another physical location that's not even accessible to me. I have to get someone to bring the stuff back and forth. So I think that is like a quick summary of where we stand. And with that said, we're still not sure what we'll be deciding between the building. If it's just going to be a repair of the building, if it's just going to be a complete redo. But the idea really was to have some visioning for folks to be able to participate into thinking about, like, what could the building look like if we were to reconstruct it. There's been some discussion as well of maybe putting like demonstration kitchen if we had a second floor in there so that we could have special events, and or potentially on really cold days maybe have people go in that space. Again, these are all just ideas that have no bearing on what exactly will happen, but the idea is to just have a visioning session to get people's ideas out into the open about this.
And so that visioning session has not happened then?
Well, we started it last time, but there was only 2 members of
Got
it
it.
here, so.
And is there plans for a more formal visioning session, or is this that visioning session?
Well, this is yeah. That was just my premise for up to this. So, can you wait till the public comment, or because I worry that people can't hear what you're saying
I'm just wondering about
Yeah.
this. Does it include the public, or is it just this commission that is part of the vision?
Well, the problem is we don't have enough time to include members of the public beyond this body, right? This body already includes members of the public. Right.
So I think formally how it would go is that we
Right.
would go through and do this, and if there's
Yes.
a period during the public comment, have things either on or off the agenda, that's where it would go.
Right.
And that may also be something to punt for future meetings too, for including that. So that's the normal process that would
Right.
happen with this body in that way.
And the issue with this is because it's an emergency situation, right? We don't really have much time to wait, because again, the market building is sinking into the earth, quite literally.
So the building's gonna be condemned then?
I mean, I don't think so.
Well, it sounds
Let's
like
hope
it
not.
should be. 1 year.
Try to avoid that.
Yes, the goal is to not have that.
Right.
But when the exploration was done, some of the wall of the building was cracked in at least 2 places.
And the city's actually known about it for a while. There's actually evidence of repair. There's caulking on the front part of it, like it was tried to be repaired before, so.
I'm not sure exactly about that, but I do know that, the gap part, it looks almost like it was stretched.
Yeah, it's
So I'm not sure if that's old or new. But there's many areas, right, in the market that are sinking. It's not just the office building, it just happens to be, that one's that bad.
Sorry.
It's okay. So, anyone have any commission members have any thoughts or questions or comments?
And in some ways, it will be determined as to what, what budget we can actually work with too. But
Right.
I hear what you're saying about the idea of having some public access stuff on the second floor, but I also just, from what I know of buildings, I don't foresee any way that would, particularly when we're talking about ADA accessibility and things
Right.
like that, that getting within that footprint, anything to get a public body up there is going to be wildly expensive and eat up all your footprint. So I don't think that would work. I can see storage. Storage came up actually a lot of times earlier before you too for this, for talking about even like winterization. There were some efforts if we had something would pull down, and then one of the challenges was if you had something that was maybe you could take away and move away, it was like, yeah, that might work if we could take it away, but where would we put it? We don't have anywhere
Right.
to put it. And so that could provide a means for somewhere to put it too, and that's been a perennial problem. And that would be something I'm sure code-wise it would fly, so you could just have it as a general storage space, and yeah, absolutely could use it too. So that'd be a plus.
Right, and the idea for the building up as opposed to out would be, 1, it does not impact parking, but 2, it's not as expensive to go up than out. So those are the 2 reasons why this was floated.
As long as they can get the foundation
what?
right.
That's true.
Right, and that idea too was the thinking that I was told was sort of, it doesn't make sense to do this whole $150,000 thing just for the foundation
Yeah.
if the market office building's not working for us either.
Yep.
Right, it just doesn't make sense to put all these resources in and then have the market not work, or excuse me, the office not work for the market.
The other challenge
So-
that will happen with the second story is that even though it doesn't need to have an elevator per se, it will still need a stair, and that the
Right.
stair will eat up
Sure,
square footage
That's
within your
exactly
existing.
what
So your
Yeah.
office will be smaller.
right,
That's
Um,
what I was just gonna
so-
say, by the time you go up, you build your stairway or
Right.
elevator,
Yep.
and the space you chewed up doing that is about what you're gonna gain upstairs, unfortunately.
It may well be. It depends on what the size is. It's a pretty small footprint, and so that might be a challenge unless you expanded somewhere over the walkway. That I don't know how much, if there's over the bathrooms and over the I don't know what the space above that, but could there be a bigger volume up there? Maybe. I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't know what that looks like. I have to look at it from GPS.
and I should also point out too that part of this is making our token window situation better, because right now we're just dealing with our pivot due to COVID, but it's not really sustainable to have us be hunching, people can't see, so it'd be really nice to have a full window, a curbless access that could also be open and closed, without us having to physically take the window out and put it back in. So that's also part of this, and then that would tie back into the ADA. revision so that we could be curbless and more accessible to folks on wheels and with other various mobility limitations.
So have you all done an assessment of how much storage space you'd need? And what's the real priorities? I know you've got tables and you've got propane heaters and,
Those are not stored on site. That would be an example of something that's stored off site.
so I mean, like,
And-
very minimal, what needs to be there all the time.
We have
then.
a lot of chairs, we have a lot of tables, we have sandwich boards, we have banners, we have all of the stuff we need for cooking demos, we have all of the signage, we have everything that's a cart that is a other stanchion sign, we've got ladders, we've got the mop, we've got like all sorts of things that people might not realize we have. All of the paper products for the bathrooms, all of the the vacuum cleaners, all of the tokens. I mean, I could go on.
Yeah, no, but I just think it'd be great to
Trash
have
bags.
an assessment for the
Right.
city, to just say, these are the things that we have to have on site all the time, and then these are the things that we need seasonally, so this gives us an estimate of how much square footage we need for storage
Right.
space.
I would say that most of the stuff we need on site all the time. The other stuff that's off site is we put it there because we have to. But I would appreciate not having to deal with that. Because again, I don't even know half of the stuff that's stored off site because I didn't put it there. Prior managers put it there and I have no clue.
Whole treasure trove
Right,
somewhere.
like at Wheeler, there's a bunch at Wheeler Park. I don't know what's there. So that's part of it.
So I just wanted to clarify a couple of comments that I made at last meeting, to think about the big picture plan. And if the city is gonna think about redoing the market building, that's gonna include some design work. And I would like to suggest that the city do design work for the entire market, and then think of what's happening at the market as staged improvements at the market. And that this would actually be incredibly helpful for them thinking about grant money. Because if you've got a plan in place, and I would like to emphasize that this should be a feasible plan, because over the last 10 years, there have been at least 2 plans, and neither one of them has really gone anywhere. Because of finances or because of other concerns. So to have an actual long-term plan for the physical space of the market, and then the improvements could be done sequentially, and there could be, if the plan was in place, then there could be grant money asked for various things, and it could be done with other initiatives, taking into account other initiatives with the city, like the A20 plan and with the Office of Sustainability. So, but I would like to know if the city's really committed to keeping the farmer's market in that place, first of all, because I always hear all sorts of rumors about the farmer's market, the city wanting the farmer's market to move, and I just would like the city to come and say, yeah, if we do long-term planning, we're gonna be committed to this space. And then I have never understood the finances. I know there was a lot of money sort of put on the table for the 2016 plan. And so having us think about what those finances are, what's it, and, you know, just, is this all gonna have to come out from the market fund? Is the DDA gonna be involved in this? Where are the other resources that could come in? Peter and I live in the city, Debbie does too, so we know on our property taxes that there's money coming out for city parks. So just understanding finances, commitment to space, and then thinking about a long-term design for the market that could include the canopy for the market, and providing some exploring options for providing some protection for the vendors from the elements.
Anyone else? Jeff, do you have anything to add? Or subtract? Or
Multiply.
Yeah.
No, just, I don't want everyone to forget about the whole heat idea for putting some heat on the market in the wintertime. I think would be a huge step forward.
I think if we got some protection and some better electricity, it would make that a lot feasible too. More reliable electricity.
I wondered if they couldn't do solar on the roof, and then, because I know there was some talk about the heat being a wasted energy, do some solar on the roof to offset that, and it could all kind of be part of one project. I don't know.
It's definitely gonna take some creative planning, but, I think a long-term plan would be
Because I think
really helpful.
last time they said that it had to be electric, it couldn't be gas.
That's right. Or the net zero goals.
So
That's still a thing, yeah.
if we did some solar, then I don't know if that could offset it or.
And as we learned, there's already some geothermal wells, in that area.
I know across the street, there are some in the parking lot there too.
I don't know.
No,
It
it's
was
just
just
across
brought up.
the street.
Yeah. Because actually I was reading a project just recently about that where they used in upstate New York where they ended up doing actually small geothermal wells for de-icing sidewalks. And
interesting.
the nice thing is they're charged in the summer with just a pump. There's no heat pump. It's all just glycol. And so in the summer it takes the heat of the concrete, directs it to an underground well, and then on demand in the winter will essentially recirculate that glycol through that warmed earth segment, and then it doesn't bring it up to hot, but it brings it up to 50.
Yeah.
And that's and it's on demand, so you can turn it off 6 days a week, and then one day it can turn on, and you're essentially just storing summer heat for winter. And it's pretty low tech, but it's but it's essentially just an ice melter.
Right.
But that would work
But that would
too.
also heat the sidewalk.
It would heat
here,
the sidewalk, which would heat the space. So the
which
space
would be so
and
lovely
that's
to
the
have
thing
the
is-
vendors have warm feet.
Yep, and so that would make and it's pretty dumb and easy and robust, and easily cleaned. So, but again, that requires embedding it in the concrete, which would involve taking out the concrete, replacing the concrete, and driving some geothermal wells. But energy-wise, it's fantastic. But from a cost-wise, it would be a bigger part. I like also the idea of integrating. If we do the offices redesign, putting that part of a kind of greater master plan, because one of the things, a criticism that oftentimes happens is you get, particularly municipal projects end up being a little helter-skelter. So, and then both, that sometimes sinks the whole project, and, but if it's like as a unified whole, look, this is all as a
Yeah.
piece.
Yeah.
Both from it has a common mission, it has a common look, it has a common branding, a common feel, versus if it's like this horrible thing stuck to it, then that ends up often sometimes sinking projects too altogether, even the first one. So it's like, okay, well, we can't decide because we've got a good with a bad. So I think that might make it more viable too.
And ADA compliant and.
And ADA
things.
compliant, yep,
Yeah.
exactly, yep.
Yeah.
And so what are these values and missions, and actually how does this whole project satisfy that? It's not just piecemeal, but it's actually, we have somewhat of a holistic solution, or at least aiming for that. I think that would feel better, and I think it probably might sell better too.
So, and where did you say that this was happening? The example you gave?
For the geothermal thing?
Yeah.
It was in upstate New York.
Okay.
I can try to find the reference, but it was,
Okay.
yeah, it was a clever little project. It's like, oh, genius.
Yeah. Interesting.
You can use your then actually the bonus too is you actually have a slightly cooler
Right.
summer market because you're actually sucking ground air. You're actually ground cooling. So win-win.
And if we took out the concrete, we could make it so it's not so trippable.
That's right. Yep.
Uneven and
Yep.
problems.
And that's the other thing you were talking about ADA, where the other thing challenge there is cross slopes. So it's not just having a two-street of slope, but it's also, it goes from a straight to then a curse launch, and that is also in technical violation. So that needs to be all leveled out, and I've dealt so much with so many hours trying to make those things not happen.
I wanted to add that one of our former vendors, Coleman Jewett, had that installed in his house, his system on the Huron River. It was up not far from Argo, so it's happening.
Definitely, yep.
All right.
So I wanted to get back to the input, and I actually did bring some big pieces of paper.
Perfect.
So if we want to lay them out and people just write down their ideas, if you all think that's an okay idea, we've got the paper here and Sharpies.
Sure. I don't see
So
why not.
we can, okay, we'll do that. All right. Okay, any other comments on the sort of market repair building all the other things that we've talked about.
I would just add the broader context is what's happening within parks as a whole, from what I have been told, is that a lot of major infrastructure projects that have been needing to happen for a really long time are all sort of coming due. So that might be a constraint in terms of like really high ticket item sort of thinking about things. One is the West Park Bandshell. The other is Bicentennial Park. These are both projects that are much, much, much larger than us. So that's just something to be aware of in the milieu and in terms of the pressures that time pressures that have been put on the planners and the architects that work in parks. Hannah.
Parks planning has also been understaffed and just hired an additional temporary person. So I think they were operating with one, and now they might have two. So,
But only for 9 months of the year.
yes, actually,
Really?
the two months are 10 months.
Yes.
So there are more challenges in getting answers to questions that you may have and that we also have. That's why
Yes.
that's happening.
Very good point. Thank you.
So I've had several people say to me that why don't we get other entities involved, like the university and things like that? And I am willing to explore some of those opportunities, but I need to have a commitment from Parks that if we were to invite somebody in to do a class, get a lot of opportunities, that they will commit to taking those ideas seriously. So I don't want to waste, I know people at the university are really busy, and I know how excited students get when they can provide input, and I don't want to ask anybody if they would consider doing that without some sort of commitment of a serious review. So I just want to throw that out there on the table. I am happy to explore opportunities. I have some students, actually, not to have them, but help me figure out who would be a great person to identify, both within the food systems and within the architectural landscape program at the university. Can't remember what it's called, but.
I have an idea. When there's projects like this, what if they become green energy projects? There's got to be grants for that. And the city would be all on that.
That's where the Office of Sustainability comes in too, yeah.
Well, I think also that does bring in one challenge with the site too, which is something that I've never been really resolved in terms of, because of the site that we're in, it's not owned by Parks per se. You know, it kind of, I don't know actually how it's managed by many entities all simultaneously, whether it's DDA, whether it's, and so it's kind of, it runs the risk of being a bit of a tragedy of the commons in terms of, we as the farmers market are there twice a week. But then there are 5 other, how many days are there a week? There are 5 other days of the week. And there are also other times when the market's not going on, where it's used by a bunch of other stakeholders. And so it's a little challenging trying to get all those people to the table and actually they all have little pots of funding, but also it's like, you know, versus like the Bandshell is totally 100% within Parks. It's in a park. It's controlled by Parks. It's only Parks. So it's easier to talk about. But also in some ways it's lower visibility, lower contact with fewer people. The market has huge contact with a lot of people in a very central location.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
but how to manage those disparate kind of stakeholders in that way.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point, specifically like for the fact that, you know, like the picnic table area, people think it's us, but it's actually Carytown.
Yep.
So it's like the market sort of just collaboratively uses that space, but it's not just our jurisdiction, just to give one example. And the other thing too is a lot of the funding that comes into other departments, there's like specific restrictions on how those things can be used. So unfortunately, from what I've been able to gather, like the OSI millage, all of that funding, that does not come to us unless there is maybe a specific collaboration. And I don't even know what that looks like. That has not been explained to me. So that's something, you know, that I'm not that sure about. I know also another thing is our upper bosses are a little bit tenuous when it comes to having partnerships with entities, especially private entities or other entities, like what that could look like both from a legal standpoint and also just logistically. So I know there's a lot of sort of constraints that from the outside it might seem like it's so simple, just get that grant, go ahead. What if we could? There's a lot of other behind the scenes constraints that we're trying to navigate and we're trying to learn more information about, but it's just something to be aware of for folks. I don't know if that makes sense.
Do you know where that tension comes from, where that kind of aversion for collaboration comes from?
I think it's just the difficulty of being a city entity, having private-public partnerships, not wanting to be seen having, favoritism of one over another. I mean, like all of the things that go with it.
I think the legal
into
department
that.
of the city is strongly risk adverse.
Okay, yeah.
And so sponsorships and partnerships somewhat violate that. And then I think collaboration with OSI seems really awesome, but what they're doing is not infrastructure based, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Even though it, in my mind, could and should be, that is harder than it seems. I will say our new supervisor is Remy.
Yeah.
That changed. He supervises natural area preservation and now us. I have worked with him previously, as has Stephanie, at least a little bit, so we know him more personally, and he seems to be more involved. So I think that kind of communication with upper management should be improving.
That's good.
In the next month. So I don't want to have all bad news, but yeah, sponsorships have been frowned upon in the past. That is something we've looked into, even just during my short time here. So
Right. I mean, there's been people in the past before I was here that had floated the idea of sort of like a Friends of the Market type organization that could fund certain things. I know that's not necessarily something that they're that enthusiastic about either. I think also, for example, the one thing that has been received pretty positively, and again, so theoretical, say we put in this demonstration kitchen in the Market Office building, that would be something that would be a perfect candidate for the Fair Food Network's Michigan Good Food Fund, right? This is a fund that exists to help Michigan food-based entrepreneurs. That's farms, that's food businesses, prepared foods, anything else. So that could be something that's very specific and very targeted and that makes perfect sense, but it's hard to do broader things. I know other markets that aren't run by cities have a lot more flexibility with things like that, where they can partner with Joe's Roof Repair sponsors their cooking demo series. That's not something we really can do because of all the constraints that we mentioned. But that doesn't mean we don't have any support, right? We did get a grant earlier this year from Michigan Farmers Market Association, and that helped fund the vast majority of our cooking demo series. So it can happen. It's just, again, not so much for infrastructure. That funding's not really available, but it is for programming. So we also need to navigate funding streams in that way too, if that makes sense.
I just want to go back to the master plan. If there was a master plan and we could think about the whole, then I think we could chop it up into grants. There is federal money. I don't know if the Michigan Farmers Market Association has additional funds for other things that we could get creative about building an argument and justification for. So,
I mean, we have a very strong relationship with them, and we pretty much apply for what they have funding for, and that was what we did last year, was our sort of thinking that we didn't necessarily fit the bill for it, and then being pleasantly surprised when we got it. So we are exploring those things with them in particular, but there's other opportunities out there.
I like the idea of the master plan and breaking it up.
Yeah.
I think it really just depends on how the planning department and us goes in the coming months.
yeah,
That seems ideal and logical and reasonable.
yeah.
I don't want to discount that, but
Yeah.
it's not necessarily up to
Yeah, yeah,
us.
yeah.
Unfortunately. If it
You
was,
guys are just
I'm
our
sure
voice.
we would be already done.
You are the liaison with the cities, so, but that is where if they want to get creative, I could see
Oh, yeah.
somebody in landscape architecture, or
Definitely.
something like that could be an interesting way to create some generation of ideas.
So in summary, I think with this market office building project, I think the two main constraints are timeline, right? This needs to happen very quickly. This is a very major thing. It's like, if we don't do this, then we no longer have the office building. And what maybe people may think, the market cannot run itself. It does needs to have,
No.
to be there to run it. So that's one piece of it. And the other piece is this just happens to fall in very bad timing, right? When other bills are coming due, other projects have gone through the full public input process and are, at much further along than we are. This just happened that this is an emergency thing that came about. So the process would look a lot different than, say, when there was a conversation about that winterization building in the past. It's not going to look like the same process, as far as I can tell. Just wanted to clarify those things and summarize.
Are they talking about the possibility of giving you a temporary structure if they have to take down the building, put a trailer in or something like that?
We haven't gotten that far, but
Okay.
potentially.
Okay.
All options are on the table, as far as I know, at the current moment.
All right. So I think we're on to new business.
All
then.
right. Well, I was going to mention the Remy thing, but thank you. Thank you. I'm so sorry. You're fine. You're fine.
I just thought it was
It's so new. It's
so
so
new.
new. I didn't even
I
put it
saw
in
it
the
on
new
the email.
business.
So I
No,
was
you're
like, what's
totally
this?
right. So there's been some shift around within the upper management in parks, and as a result, we are now under the umbrella of NAP, basically Natural Areas Preservation, and the Greenbelt. So we're under the same management of that. Remy joined the city a year or two ago and stepped into the previous NAP director's role, and then they created a new position partly for him. So they folded in his work with the Greenbelt, which is where I worked with him before when I was on the Greenbelt Commission. And so put all these things together. And what's really interesting is, I guess there had been conversations about this in the city a long time ago, back in 2010 at least. There had been this conversation of putting us more with the Natural Areas Preservation, with the Greenbelt, because again, it makes a lot of sense if these are areas that work with farmland preservation, green space preservation. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. I've also been behind the scenes working with Remy and Rosie prior to this on the Buy Protect Sell project. And I don't know if I talked about this in here at all, actually. In trying to get them to understand, how they can make this proposal of farmland available to farmers and make it something that beginning farmers who need land access would want. So I'm actually pretty excited about the possibilities for that we can be much more directly impactful in terms of putting farmers on land and then also giving them a space to sell at the market. So really bringing it full circle in terms of the food access work that both myself and Hannah are very passionate about and have been working on for a long time. So we're really excited about that side. Programmatically, we're also really excited about Remy. He is a really dynamic person. He's really excited to learn. I mean, he doesn't know much about the market yet, but he's excited to learn. He plans on being at the Wednesday market to sort of see exactly what's going on, at least from now until it ends for the year. Maybe not every single week, but he's going to try to be here on Wednesdays. And again, is a really great person that will be much more active. Another reason why things maybe have been moving a little bit slower is this whole time, my boss was promoted to the overarching parks boss. So for the last about 18 months, I haven't had any additional support. It's not to say that they're not there when I ask questions, because of course, but this is somebody who's going to be much more directly on the ground as an advocate for us. In a way that we could really utilize. So we're very excited. And again, this is super new news. I had a meeting with them on Tuesday. So this is like the newest of business that we could have. So
Great.
That's that. That's my new business for that.
I'm glad you're excited about it. So, Stephanie, I'm trying to think of the organizational chart now. So then where does NAP and the Greenbelt fall under in terms of what's above them?
Just Josh.
Josh.
So
And
it's
then
still,
It's Josh,
Yeah.
Remy. Remy is NAP, Greenbelt, Farmers
Us.
Market.
okay,
Yeah.
okay.
And then
And-
Scott Spooner
Sorry
is,
for the hand motion.
No,
That's
no,
okay,
that's very
I
helpful,
need
actually.
to,
and then Scott Spooner is park operations. and a bunch of the other facilities. And then I believe that the senior center and a couple like really not like facility entities are still under Josh directly.
But it
So
seems
there's
like-
still two, there's like basically one at the top, then two, then the rest of us supervisors, and then our staff.
And so the ultimate, the level above is still, city parks then?
Right, this is all within parks we're
Okay,
discussing.
okay,
This
great.
is the
That's what I
structure of
wanted
the
to understand.
department.
Okay.
But
Yep.
it seems like we're in a more logical area, because I remember seeing that before in one of the previous
Yes.
ones, where it's like, we're in the same boat as, like pools or swimming pool, like Mac or
Right.
something like that. It's like,
Right.
okay, well, that's odd. You know, it's kind of very apples and oranges in that way.
Right, and I think another reason for maybe some of the fits and starts in the past is that a lot of times people don't know what to do with us. Like,
Yeah.
we're not an ice rink, we're
Yeah.
not a pool,
Yep.
right? We're not a natural area. What exactly are we in
Mhm.
terms of like parks? So I think this is something that's going to be a lot more helpful too, because again, Remy's really familiar with USDA grants as it relates to farmland conservation. He knew about Double Up Food Bucks being a national program, right? He has a lot of knowledge that, is specific sort of to being in the role that he's in,
Mhm.
that other people, didn't have, and for no fault of their own, right? They're doing all sorts of very different things. So that's another reason that this is a really great change.
That's really good.
So,
So the only other thing that I wanted to check on with new business is that we will have a December meeting, because it seems like we still need lots of conversations going forward.
well, what was our, I think the date that we had set up for that, was the 21st.
Yep, that's what
So,
I've got.
I mean, I'm still planning on being available if folks are, but then again, it would be virtual,
Yeah,
Um,
that's fine.
but December 21st, Thursday at 5:30.
Works for me.
That works for me.
Yep. Yeah. Works.
No, I think that's good, because sometimes we end up like slipping on, or we cancel some of those, and it's like, well, that's, if we have a lot talking.
Yeah, I think December is usually the one that they cancel, but
Yep.
Right.
it doesn't, it's not set that way.
It's
but
not, yeah.
Even if it's just that we can have a conversation to get ready for voting for
Right.
officers
Yeah,
in
exactly.
January and.
And I think the
some
last
planning.
couple of years it was even closer to Christmas,
Yeah.
whereas now it's a little
Exactly.
bit more of
Yeah.
a
Habit of the
buffer.
calendar, yep.
Yes.
Yeah, that's just fine. Any other new
Okay.
business?
Nope.
Great.
So,
So then we have, second public comment.
so if you would like to address us, please come to this chair and speak into the microphone. We welcome you. Any of you.
No?
Well,
Go, go.
Because also, I'm not sure if people heard any of your questions before because you were not mic'd.
Yeah.
So
So the microphone that in front
We
of you.
heard
that's
it,
right.
but
Yeah, you don't
no
need to
one
be
else-
there.
No, it's picking
So
up.
pick it up and yell.
Yes.
No.
I just meant to say we heard it, but no one else listening probably heard what you had asked.
In TV
before.
land.
Okay, my name is Christine Shuprai. I'm one of the artisan vendors at the Saturday and Wednesday market. I'm just curious as to, one, I really like your idea of breaking down the phases of the master plan or whatever going forward, and doing it in phases seems as though it'd be much more economical and would be given more thought because you could concentrate on one area at a time. My second question is, you sounded like you were talking about expanding the number of people on this commission. And does that happen in the new year? Do people just apply? Is this something that has to go through legal first? And
Has to
so
go through
when
Yes.
would that take place?
So it has to go through legal, and then it has to be voted on by council.
So
So
we
a long
wrote it,
time.
we wrote it into a draft of bylaws, and
Ah.
then it's to the city for approval. And then, once that happens,
And
We'll
they
let
may or may
everybody
not
know.
approve it. And
Yeah.
so then it may be that it comes back to us and it goes through iterations. And we don't know how long it will take within legal too. So
Right.
it's,
It took about a month plus for when we were talking about the rule change, and that was like just to go through the edits within legal. That didn't include them waiting to get back to us when they received it. So we're hopeful that it would be for next year, but pretty much once it gets voted in by council, it would go into effect right then.
Okay.
but we made the argument, Peter did the research, that we were the smallest commission for the city, and we really needed some more voices.
And this does act as an advisory board to council, correct?
Not, we advise
Advisory
the
to
market.
us,
Yep, to the
Yeah.
market manager.
yes.
Yep.
Okay.
And
The
then-
only time that council needs to vote on anything we do is if it's a bylaw change.
Yep.
Okay.
Any other changes, it still has to go to legal, but it's good enough once it goes through that. If that makes sense.
Good to know.
Yes.
That's
and,
all.
and another reason for the expansion is we had a lot of times where we had vacancies, and vacancies that were, you know, not necessarily that vital to the functioning of this body. It was like, you know, yes, it's nice to have a Carytown representative, but if we could fill voices and have that be a vendor, that would be a lot more helpful. And then also there'd be meetings where we just didn't have enough quorum, because if like 2 people can't make it, then we can't function.
And how many are you asking to expand it to?
From 5 to 7.
Okay.
And the other part is the balance is currently off, where non-market related folks can outvote market related folks. Because I don't have a vote, just to clarify.
So there's 2 customers, there's 2 vendors, and then a Carytown representative.
Right.
That's how
So-
it currently is structured.
And you would expand it to what? More
One additional
vendors?
market vendor and then 1 member at large, which could
So
be
any
any
of
of
those
the any
categories.
category.
Could be a
And-
vendor, could be a customer.
And
could
the
be Carytown.
vendor could be an annual vendor, a
Right.
daily vendor, an artisan,
You
a
would qualify.
producer.
You would qualify.
Yes.
Yes. Let's get to brass tacks.
As of right now, our daily, for the first time in a while, our daily representative is an artisan,
Yep.
so Jeb. He just could not be here tonight,
Okay. Fabulous.
so.
Happy holidays.
Yeah.
Happy
Thank you.
Thanksgiving.
Anyone else like to address us? Come on down.
Debbie.
I have a chance, you know, I'm up here gathering. I agree that when they go in to look and see what the problem is under the office, to just do an assessment. Our market's so small. It's so small. I really wish Parks could step up and take care of the issues that are at hand here. It represents our city. So many thousands of people come through here every week. It's such a little gem. It's hard to see it just decay like it is. I like the master plan as well. I still encourage for the community to be involved, even the high schools. We don't have to have a grand prize winner and set it in stone. We just want ideas. We want everybody's ideas, whether it's how to fill this hole, how to level the place. Love the geothermal. That's getting close to my Frankenmuth thing like I've always wanted. That way you got no ice. It's clear, it's great. And they did geothermal across the street about 15 years ago. So it's right there. This is our market, the vendors, the customers, but it's the community's market. And I think the more they're involved, the more they will help us move this project forward of winterizing the market. And I don't mean close it up tight and crank the heat. Take the edge off. We like our outdoor tradition. We just need a little heat coming on down. Just take that edge off until we can move further even. The wind is an issue lately. It hasn't been like this in all 32 years I've been there. The last 5 years are horrendous. But Jeff's right. We really need the heat will help a lot. And if we could start with that. But the master plan's great because little by little chunks at a time, we can do this and we can do this together. Thank you guys very much for your time and effort. See you at the market.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any last comments from our members of the public? Or our esteemed vendors, whichever comes first.
And I just want to say, I will put out sheets, and I'll put out one that says, like, wishes or needs for the office, and then I'll put one for the market at large, too, so you can share anything you want with us on those, and I'll take pictures of them and share them with everybody.
Great.
So.
And last thing I should say, if there's something that you think about that you wanted to include, feel free to send it my way or send it to your representatives. We would love to include your thoughts and comments in either the next meeting or just in the thought process more generally. So, thanks.
Alrighty, and so, with that, it is 6:51, and I think we'll adjourn this meeting.
All right.
Good job.
Thank you all.
Papers out.
You are so prepared.